Hello YouTube. Just want to bring an update talking about my chromatic shot sage build, where we are right now with the build, changes we've made, and essentially to celebrate that we've achieved our movement speed goal. So going into this build, I had a few goals in mind. One, I wanted to have enough damage that I can do all content in the game. And the way you measure that is actually through the dragon. So if you can reach 3,800 on the dragon while having your mapping setup equipped, you will always have damage cap. You know, you can do like full-on golden cage farming with all the DRs stacked on top of each other, and you will still be hitting for 15 trillion a second. So that was one goal. I wanted to be fully damage capped in my full movement speed mapping setup. Now this was actually a while ago. I should have a lot more damage than I do than what I had back then. I probably can reach like 4k on the dragon. Maybe I will do that at some point, but I don't really care about dragon pushing. So that was one goal that I had. The second goal is I want to be unkillable and tanky. Now, I did level to 100 in deep space. You know, this level 100 was reached fully through deep space. And my build has a lot of defense layers. We have 90 max res, we have 100% conversion to erosion and physical conversion. We have 80% block ratio with Signed Avowal. We have 66% damage transfer to our modules. So overall, I would say that we kind of achieved that goal as well of being extremely killable and tanky. I wouldn't actually mind being even tankier. Most specifically, I think my EHP is very low. I think I could definitely, if I were to redo the setup, I think the thing I would do differently is maybe instead of Warlock, I would drop a bit of damage and go for God of Might for the additional, like, life and yes. And then go, instead of Wings of Light, playing Israfels. Because I think if you do Israfels and Malign Embrace, then going for an energy shield based setup instead of a life based setup would actually be stronger. I was thinking a lot about it, and I think the ES setup is actually pretty fucking good on this character and like on this build. So I definitely saw a lot of value in like doing that. And then the last and most important thing is I want to be fast. Now you can tell that I'm fast. So let me just go through all of the layers we have for movement speed. So the first layer is we have Scorpion Distillate, which is giving us 15% movement speed up to 150%. This is giving us around 100 to 105% movement speed. Reaching the cap of 150 is not possible. Maybe. I'm trying to think if it's actually possible. I genuinely think it's impossible. It is a completely, like, you know, this up to 150% is just completely pointless. I genuinely don't know how you would reach the cap. It is so unbelievably difficult to reach the cap and not worth it at all. But we're getting about 100 to 105% movement speed. We have Swiftness Aura with Selfishness on it, which Swiftness Aura is giving me around 52% movement speed right now. Because we have about 100% Aura effect. Now, I will be getting another 10% out of this once I buy a Precise Standards 1. Which I could afford right now, but I'm going to wait a bit until they go down in price. Because they're 3.6k now, and you can, if you're like patient, like you can buy these for like under 3k. So I'm going to wait until one is under 3k, and this is going to give me another 10% movement speed. Because this is 35% aura effect, which is pretty fucking good. I either way need to buy 3 of those. That is something that I want to upgrade in the build at some point. But this is giving me another 52% right now. We have Lone Walkers with haste on them, which is giving me 8% additional movement speed, as well as giving me 50% movement speed. So now we're up to 200% with 8% additional. Then here's some secret sauce. I have this triple Star Trail setup with 3% movement speed on every single micro fade. And what this is actually allowing me to do is I am getting 70% movement speed from my Preserve of Eternity here, as well as my Preserve of Eternity giving me, on top of that, an extra 68% movement speed. This is like a very big secret sauce that I have in the build. This is giving me a ton of movement speed. And then I also redid all of my Euro memories. So I did actually swap over to doing a memory of progress. You know, in a previous video I talked about this tech, but essentially, if you have a +5 Euro memory here, this is almost as good as having the 10.8% from basic pharmacology. This is almost as good as the Sage-specific Euro memory that gives you like 80% base ingredient effect. It's very slightly worse, but I have enough aura effect that I'm still capping out my resilient moss. And this is actually giving me extra movement speed than that would give me, because it does allow me an extra 12% additional elixir effect. So my elixir effect right now is at 568%, but this 568% is actually increased by 12% additional. So we actually have 636% elixir effect for a Scorpion Distillate, which, let's see, our Scorpion Distillate is giving us 110% movement speed because of that. And if we did it a different way, like, we would not reach that high movement speed from the Scorpion Distillate. And then every single other memory I have has movement speed on. So we have 21% movement speed, 21% movement speed, and 20% movement speed. Now, we got very unlucky with this memory of progress. I was really hoping we would upgrade this to 39% and we'd upgrade this to T0. And instead of hitting this and this, we hit the spell block and we upgrade our spell block from like a 9% to 11%. It went from like T3 to T2 or something like that, or like 8% to 11%. Which, well, that is awesome. You know, I do really badly want to at some point in time, I'll redo this and keep going until I hit Artificial Moon Progress and hit movement speed, like, upgraded on both. With all that being said, technically speaking, this hero memory could be a movement speed base, which would give me another 12%. And instead of crit rating, this could have been movement speed, but those are like 200k FE to buy, and I'm just not going to farm that. That is just so much time investment. I don't want to bother. I like this game, but I don't like it that much. So that's all of the, like, main sources of movement speed we have. I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm missing, but I don't think so. We did lose a lot of movement speed from, like, our states and stuff when we stopped the contamination. Because, we don't have, like, movement speed per fervor and things like that anymore, unfortunately. But what I do have is, oh my gods of knowledge divinity. I crafted this up, and I was happy with either spell levels or movement speed per tangle, and we hit movement speed for each activated tangle. Which is giving me 9% of the dummy, but in mapping I believe it's 12%. And then I also, on my tree, went and took this for another 12% here. Which is only 9% of the dummy, but it's 12% here. And then we also have the 6% movement speed here, 12% movement speed here. You know, just trying to get all of the movement speed we possibly can from every source possible. But with all of that being said, the character right now has 540% movement speed. Let's just get this up to 500%. Why is it at 4? There we go, 500%. So the reason I say 504% is this 8% additional movement speed is not actually counted into the movement speed bonus. I did test this before with Hasten, it just doesn't, like, add it. So you do have to take 500% times 1.08 to get 540. And then once we add swiftness, before you think I clickbaited you, once I do buy a precise stance 1, my swiftness is actually going to be putting me over 555%, roughly. I'm not 100% sure, but I did the math on it, and, like, I'm getting at least 10% movement speed from swiftness, but yeah. So we're definitely going to be over 550% once we buy a precise stance 1. And obviously I do have the sealed mana to drop the restrain here, like, this isn't relevant. And that is something I just want to do at some point. I want to get, 4 precise stances once. I did sell them, like, ages ago, and now I want to buy them back at, like, twice the price I sold them at. Happens. It happens.
Every book in the great library.
But yeah, that's the current build, and that's the plans for the future. I don't know what the plan is after that, if I'm being honest with you. I might start working a bit on just, like, making, like, just trying out farming strats and making, like, content and shit, and just, like, testing out things. Maybe try making, like, budget builds. I'm really not sure what to do once I reach the point where I've, like, gotten my precise stance ones. Because at that point, like, I've kind of achieved everything I wanted to achieve with this building character. But yeah, as for farming and stuff, I've been doing a lot of just Arcana hunting Vorax, what I made a video of. I did do 1 day of clockwork farming, like deep space, full investment clockwork farming. By the end of the night, after like 120 or 130 maps, we were averaging 5.8k FE per hour. It was like absolutely insane. I might make a video on that if people want to watch that. The plan for me now is I have some more deep space strats that I want to just try out, maybe make some videos on. And then maybe I'll try like testing out like lower investment forms, like T8 forms or profound forms, and seeing if there's anything good for people. But it's always difficult for me to like do those forms because, you know, the average person who's in Timemark 8 isn't just running around at fucking Mach 10 speed, one-shotting everything and doing like 120 maps an hour. So, you know, it's always gonna be like your mileage will vary, but I do want to like make some content for people and make things that people want to watch and make things that actually are gonna be helpful for people. Because I mean, you know, what's the point of making videos if nobody cares to watch them? But I'm really happy with my character and the state it is in. I mean, I don't do this every season where like I push a character to its limit or I push it to its max or whatever, and obviously I'm very far away from the limit. I can easily reach over 600% movement speed if I just turn off FE at the problem. Hell, I could even consider like going for a deck stacking setup even. That would like be a ton of movement speed gain. But probably just gonna move on to different projects and things. So I guess with all that being said, like if there's anything that I said in this video that maybe seem interesting to you or sound interesting, like just let me know. If there's the type of content you want to see, like I can try and do it. I will give a warning though, if I do make like a budget build setup video, it's like, oh yeah, with this budget I can make this setup and do this content and stuff. Those videos are always a bit wonky because the person copying me in the video is not gonna like have my expertise and knowledge of the game. And if you just try and copy a video like that 1-to-1, it is gonna get flipped to the moon, and all of a sudden all the items are gonna 10x in price. Which doesn't mean you can't like still do the setup, because generally you can always just do like the budget setups for very cheap. It just means you have to like mess around with things and move things around. And as a newer player, you might not like fully know how to do that. But I can try my best if that's something people want to watch. Otherwise, maybe just try some farming strats for people. But anyway, that's enough yapping from me, YouTube. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and yeah, hopefully you'll see some more content from me soon. This was a pretty big project that I undertook. I mean, if you look at my tax revenue, we're at 700k, and it's like fucking 2.5 weeks into the season. Just absolutely insane. But I feel pretty satisfied with what I made and where I'm at with the character. It's always a good feeling when you reach a point of character where you don't really know what to do next, because nothing next really makes sense to you. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what your thoughts is on what type of content you want me to make. And I'll see you all again next time. Bye bye, YouTube. Bye bye.